Hello and welcome to Fine is a Four-Letter Word. My guest today is Jack Perez, and I am so excited. I'm always excited. I say that every time. I'm so excited to have this guest, but I really am. Jack and I met on Clubhouse originally, and I know this is going to be an amazing conversation. So let's get into it. Welcome, Jack.
Thank you, Lori. I'm so glad to be here. It's such an honor, and I'm super excited about this podcast. So I get, and it's okay to be excited every single time. That means what you're doing, you're enjoying, right?
Yes. And I just am, like I think I said before we started recording, is I'm just so honored that people are willing to share their stories with me and with my audience.
Yeah, it's really great. And honestly, that is how we grow and learn. I mean, and especially by the time we get to this age, whatever age that is. I'm blah, blah, years old. No, I mean, I don't even care. I'm going to be 57 next month. By this time, we have lots and lots of stories that can be helpful to other people. And, even if you're not solving someone else's problem, if you're sharing and then they feel a little less alone, isn't that kind of magical even in and of its own? Even if
exactly.
And the story does.
That's what I've always said. The purpose of this podcast is twofold. Is one, to help people realize that there's nothing wrong with you, and two, you're not alone.
Right.
Let me ask you the question that I start all of my interviews with, and that is, what were the beliefs that were instilled in you as you were growing up that have carried through, or that carried through until you realized that they weren't serving you anymore?
That's a really great question. I think that we sometimes overlook or forget how critical our family of origin is. My family of origin, I'm a first generation American. My parents came from Cuba in 1962. I was the first child born in the United States. That in and of itself is its own paradigm, meaning I had parents that culturally were very, very different and also did not have full control or dominion over the English language. In my single digits, Lori, I remember handling phone calls from the electric company or the water company because my parents weren't comfortable enough, particularly on a phone. I mean, they could figure it out if they needed to through pantomime and just kind of, inferring and, people being really kind and slow, but on the phone, that just didn't work. Their language skill just wasn't up to snuff. So I was tasked at a very young age to do a lot of tasks that are more associated with being older.
So you were put into the position of being an adult when you were still a child.
Yeah, in many situations, right? But not bad situations. I mean, I know there are a lot of people out there that have, horrible stories about that happening, but happening to them in a non good way. I was just tasked with more responsibility than maybe I could have or should have or whatever. I mean, you should or could yourself to death, right? But what that did, it helped me be the person I am. So I have no regrets, which is somebody who can figure stuff out. And I can do anything I set my mind to. I don't shy away. I'm also very tenacious and very, very disciplined.
Did that come from having to do those things, or did that come from because those are the kind of people your parents were? I'm sure immigrating from Cuba, they had some of those characteristics just because immigrants do.
Yes. And yeah. So is it from nurture or nature or a combination? I'm definitely my father's daughter, and my dad was a very self-disciplined, driving individual. I definitely got that. But then on top of that, then I also had to learn how to maneuver the world earlier than some. But that's okay, because I can figure stuff out, which is a great thing to know about yourself. There's not a lot that you can throw at me that if I can take a moment
Mm-hmm.
So whatever that looks like, or go look something up, or, come back to you, that I can figure it out. And
Did
I'm up to many, many challenges because I just grew up being thrown into stuff that it's like, okay, well, you got to solve this problem for me because I don't understand what they're saying to me. I'm like, okay, but I'm 9 and I'm not exactly sure I understand what they're saying to me, even though
right.
it's English, but I'll do my best.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. So,
Because
yeah.
my
Did
brain,
you realize this ability and this tenaciousness at the time, or is it just looking back?
no, I had no idea at the time. How did I not know that every 9-year-old wasn't talking to the electric
Uh-huh.
company? I had no idea.
Right.
For,
Right.
I had no clue.
Yeah. And so as you got older, as you were a young adult, how did these characteristics or these beliefs, uh, this this way of being serve you or not serve you?
I think, honestly, it has served me very, very well. I'm sure that if I dug deep down inside, there are things that I might not like about myself that are related to that, or came from that, or were derived from that. But I wouldn't change it, because it is nice to know that you land on your feet. It's nice to have that confidence that, luckily so far I have been able to figure out every scenario that I have been placed in at some point in time. I mean, it's not like immediate. I'm not a genius. It takes me a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I might, like I said, it might take me some research. It might take me some education. It might take me, some crying. I mean,
Sure.
but I don't give up.
Yeah.
I'm not a giver upper. I'm not a throw in the towel kind of person.
I think a lot of people, that's the case for a lot of people. Like, you will figure it out. But a lot of people may not have the confidence to believe that they will in the moment. Like, it sounds like you do. And because, I mean, that's just human nature. We will figure it out. It will be okay. What's that
It will
quote? If it's
always be
not
okay.
okay, it's not the end. Like,
Correct.
it's all okay in the end. And if it's not okay, then it's not the end, I guess is the way the quote goes.
Yeah, I think that's right. Right. Yeah. And I do believe in that. But of course, I get frustrated just like everybody else, and uh,
Sure.
disappointed in myself, and angry. Just recently somebody had this idea for my business, and it's a fantastic idea. I'm not ready to talk about what the idea is just yet, but I kicked myself for a week because I didn't come up with the idea. I'm like, what
Mm.
is wrong with me? How could I have missed that? How could I have missed that? That's like the obvious play here, and I did not see that. And my family's like, okay, Jack, you can't think of everything all the time.
Right.
It's
Right.
really okay that somebody else brought this idea to light. And I'm finally okay with that. But for a while, I was just kicking myself because I'm like, this is brilliant. How come it didn't come from me? But
Well, one of the ways to look at that is the universe brought it to you in a different way. Just
yeah.
because you didn't think of it doesn't mean it's not meant for you.
Oh no, it's meant for me.
It's
It's
just
meant for me.
presented to you in a different way.
And I'm okay. I'm okay with it now. But
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is now, I've been percolating on this idea for a couple of weeks now. So I've now processed through it. But my very first reaction after, oh my God, that's a brilliant idea, was, why the F didn't I come up with it?
Uh-huh. Yeah. I get it. I get it. So tell me about a time when you were stuck in a place, because this is fine to fantastic, when you were stuck in a place that everything was just fine, and maybe those skills of tenacity and belief in yourself weren't necessarily working for you, or
Oh,
you weren't employing them, or whatever it was, you
well,
were stuck at
actually,
fine.
I was employing them to my detriment, because it's
Oh,
the yin
okay.
and yang of everything, right? It's the yin and yang of everything. When I graduated from college, I went and I became a consultant. I was a management consultant for a while. Had an amazing experience. I mean, it was just so much fun. I was traveling about 75 to 80% of my time. I was running projects, global projects. I was spending time in South America. it was an incredible opportunity. I had an office in a high rise in downtown Fort Lauderdale. I could see the ocean from my office. Okay, I'm 22. I had
Wow.
not one, but two admins. I had an expense account. Okay, so it was a pretty sweet gig. I didn't get paid.
Yes.
I didn't get paid a lot, but it was a pretty sweet gig. But my boss kept saying, Jacqueline, if you don't go back and get your graduate degree, you're going to stunt your career growth. You can't get where you think you want to go. You can't get there with just a bachelor's. So I did it. I went back and I got an MBA. I went to the University of Chicago, which, if you don't know, is one of the best business schools in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I then, it did the interviewing thing like you do in graduate school, and got recruited by Hewlett Packard, a Fortune 50 company, got moved out to California. It's looking, like, wow, Jack's on the trajectory of, she's going to make it. She's going to rise the corporate ladder. I got to HP, and all of a sudden I realized, not day one, but not that far into it, by the way, Lori. I finally I was in a cubicle, right?
Uh-oh.
In a big, open, sort of warehousey space, because I was working for a manufacturing division. So we had manufacturing on site. So it was a campus, but I was all of a sudden found myself in a cubicle, no admin, no expense account. At the end of every month, because they put me in finance, I was looking for missing dollars, whatever. Missing $1,000 here, or missing $10,000 over there. And I thought to myself, where did I go wrong?
Yeah. Now I'm just one of the commoners. Where's my office?
Where I'm not making a difference anymore. Who cares where this $10,000 is? Really? Do we care?
Mm-hmm.
Who cares? Please, somebody raise their hand. Who cares? It hit me like a ton of bricks and it got worse, because you don't get recruited, from a Fortune 50 company, from a top business school into finance, and then leave after a few weeks. You don't do that. That's not
right.
a good sign on your resume. That is not the picture that you want to paint. So you stick to it. You pull up your tenacity and your self-discipline, and you make yourself go to work every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept trying. I'm like, okay, well, this job isn't working, but there's a gajillion jobs at HP. I can find a different one. I'd find a different one. I'd look at my manager and go, don't want his job. I'd look at his manager. I'm like, don't want her job. Go find a different job within HP. I did that for about 6 years and finally realized I can't. I have to get out. So I left and I started my business, because everything was fine. I was making a lot more money than I was as after undergrad. I had, I was married. I had, 2 cats. I was living in California. I was healthy. There wasn't anything wrong. Everything was fine. I had a good job. I wanted to stab myself with a pencil.
Right. And I hear this a lot from the people I talk to, and they're asking themselves, when we started, what is wrong with me? Look at all of this that I have. This is what people strive for. They work their entire careers for this, and I'm not happy with it.
Right. I'm ungrateful.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's not a lot of people who have education, have the opportunities. What was wrong with me? Why wasn't that enough? Why was I not satisfied? And not even just not satisfied. I was unhappy.
Yeah. Right. And probably making yourself even more unhappy by beating yourself up for not being happy.
Right. And then when I wanted to leave, my husband at the time was really, really pushed back on me. Rightfully so, because he was working out on his own. So we were using my full-time employment with benefits, keywords with benefits.
Yes.
Because when you work for yourself, no one's given those to you. You either forego them or pay for them out of your own pocket. It was important for me to keep the job for as long as I did. It made sense, but I was unhappy. And frustrated
Yeah.
with myself
Right.
because I didn't understand. I'm like, well, if this isn't it, then what is it? What is it?
Right. And how long did it take you in terms of soul searching to figure out, okay, it's not just moving to another job, another company, maybe HP is not the place for you, but you decided, I'm not going to another company. I want to do my own thing. How did you get to that decision?
So that wasn't that was easy. That was a very easy leap because I had been working, right? And my husband at the time was working for himself. I saw it around me all the time. I mean, vicariously and by relation, right? Because I was living with
Yeah.
someone who had their own gig. I could see what that meant. And it
Yeah.
wasn't even, I mean, yes, there are lifestyle factors that are around, as we both know, there are lifestyle
Sure.
factors. But what really called my attention, like what really sang to me, was the fact that what he did, what he provided, whatever it was, the result of that, good or bad, happened very quickly. And it was a direct line to what he did versus working for a larger corporation where it's a lot of management by consensus and a lot of group activities. What
Right.
I did it matter? Did I make a difference? Did I push the needle in either direction? I don't know. I'll
Yeah.
never know.
Right. Right. And yeah,
I
it
need
doesn't
that.
really matter.
I am the kind of human who needs to know immediately, hey, that was really good, thank you, or hey, that really sucked. You need to go back and rethink that, or because that didn't work.
The immediate feedback.
I do. I have no
Yeah.
patience. I have no patience.
Okay. All right.
Well, and the universe is getting its last laugh with me by now.
It always does.
Oh
It
yeah.
always does.
Oh really? No patience? We'll see about that, Missy.
Yeah. Let me give you some experiences to help you practice that.
I'm getting tons and tons of practice now.
Awesome. Fantastic. What were the tools? Were there tools that you were using to keep yourself sane when you were in the situation that everything's fine here? Were there tools, or did you not find them until later? And when did you find them, and what precipitated your finding them?
If by tools you mean distractions, I had plenty of them. But they weren't necessarily healthy distractions, right? I mean,
Okay.
I did some things to blow up my personal life because I was so bored. This was the thing. I was so bored. I did not feel like I was living my purpose. I did not wake up in the morning, not, with anticipation about, oh, what do I get to do today? Or how am I going to change the world today? Or how am I going to make a difference today? That just wasn't it. So I started to look for areas outside of the job. But when you work for a company like that, in a situation like that, that takes up most of your waking hours, by the way.
Yeah, I know. It drains all the energy. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So you mentioned finding your purpose. What do you feel like you have found your purpose now?
I do.
And how did you get there? Because a lot of people feel like, I don't know what my purpose is. I need to find my purpose. But how does one do that?
I would like to tell you that I know exactly how you find your purpose. And then I could send you a little map with the recipe and you could share it with all of your listeners, and we would all
just download this free PDF.
Right, exactly. By the end of it, you will have your purpose. Yeah, it didn't work that way. As a matter of fact, it revealed itself to me. If that makes any sense. And how it did was, once again, because I was unhappy. Have you ever noticed? Are you a fan of? You're a music person, right? Do you know?
Yes, I love music.
Until Tuesday, Amy Mann. Do you remember that band?
Yeah.
So some of the most amazing songs she ever wrote was when she was in excruciating pain. right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my God, this chick can write when she's not feeling well, when she's in pain. So basically I think we create more, or we have to be more resolved or be more vulnerable or something. There's something about when we're not happy, when things are not going well. And I guess maybe it's because our mindset is, well, I've got nothing to lose. It can't get much worse, right? That type of thing.
Or maybe it's because your soul is so ripped open
That
that
you're
it's,
willing to hear. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, maybe you're willing to notice or hear because you're looking. What happened was, Lori, I started really struggling with being in my early 50s. I was going through menopause and I did not do well in menopause. I didn't know much about it. I didn't even know
Mm-hmm.
that's why I was feeling the crazy symptoms. And the symptoms ranged everywhere from, your typical weight gain to I couldn't regulate my emotions. I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
a good parent. I wasn't a good partner. I wasn't a good person to me. I wasn't even a good steward of my own life at that point in time. When I started digging deep to figure out how to fix that, I realized that I wasn't alone. That I have so many women around me who were struggling with many of the same issues. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when I realized that that's my purpose. That my purpose was to be part of the movement and lead the movement to normalizing aging. Because every person, if they're lucky enough, gets to age. And
Mm-hmm.
every other human on the planet, more than every other human, because women outnumber men, we go through menopause. We go through, if you've had children, you go through the empty nest, if you're
Yeah.
lucky, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
did your
Right.
job, you're going to go through that. If you did your job, you're going to have aging parents that you have to deal with and kids that are leaving the nest. There are all these things that happen to us at this particular time of life that I didn't see it being normalized. It wasn't, it's like, don't talk about it. Don't tell your
Mm-hmm.
employer you're going through menopause. Don't bring the fact that you're weepy because your son graduated from high school and is leaving to go to college, because you'll be looked at like some weak woman, and you can't show that to your employers. You can't show that to the world.
Right. You
I
can't be
call
who you really are.
Well, and the thing is that we all go through it. So
Mm-hmm.
why are we hiding it? Why
Yeah.
isn't it considered normal? And then we get to share our normals with one another and help one another.
Right.
That's what made me realize that that was my purpose, because I was so unhappy. And when I was figuring it out for myself, I thought, okay, well, if this is quote unquote normal, and everyone's aging and every other person is going through a lot of the same things that I'm going through, but no one's talking about it. We're not doing it together. We're not collaborating. We're not sharing. We're not lifting each other up. We're all doing it in our own little corners. That's got to stop. That's got to stop.
Right. Because again, so many of us feel like, I got it. I got it. It's just me, but I will power through
Right.
because I'm tough, or I can handle it. And you don't think to reach out for help or collaborate, or even think, oh, is anybody else, to ask the question, is anybody else going through this?
Right.
It must just
And
be me.
yeah. And I do believe that each and every one of us can power through it. We can. We can get through it.
Yeah.
Our mothers did it. Our grandmothers did it. Women have been doing it for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. But why? Just because we have been, just because we can.
Right.
Why?
Yeah. It's evolution.
Yeah.
It
If there's a better
allows
way,
us to find a better way. Exactly.
if there's a better way, why not look for it? Why not employ it? Why not pursue it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
back to the whole purpose thing.
Right.
It's not like I did some sort of exercise or went through some class or had a life coach that put me through my paces and, I journaled. No, it literally hit me over the head like a 2x4, because I was so unhappy and couldn't find support.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to build a support system.
To build the support system that you weren't finding elsewhere.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I have a feeling that some of my listeners are probably thinking, okay, so you were at HP in your late 20s, early 30s, and then you said you went out on your own, and now here you are in your 50s. Wait, there's some missing pieces in here. What happened in the between?
Yeah, there's what, like almost
Briefly
15 years. Like, a big chunk is missing.
But were you doing your own thing at that point? Did you have your own business? And then, so then this is an extension of like what you're doing now with Kuel Life is an extension of your entrepreneurship.
Yes. In a lot of ways, what you just said is absolutely true. But what happened was when I left HP, my husband and I opened up a marketing PR boutique firm in San Francisco. We had very complementary skill sets. So it was a perfect combination. And we did that for many, many, many years. We then decided to shut down that business for a period of time, and we traveled around the world for a year, but then came back and reopened it. And then I did the thing that women do that sometimes really derails everything and turns their entire world on end. I became a mother.
Okay. I was thinking in my head, I'm like, what is she going to say? Because there are different ways we could go with this.
Right. I became a mother.
All right.
All of a sudden, everything that I had believed, everything that I had been, how I had been channeling my energy completely got shifted, because back to, being the person who's really tenacious and self-disciplined and can figure everything, figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go all in on being a mother. Like I wanted to go all in.
Okay.
So
did you?
I did. But then that meant stepping away from a lot of other things that I was doing, primarily leading and running a business.
Did you feel like when you did that you lost part of yourself?
I didn't at the time.
Okay.
I didn't, because I was 38 when I had my son. I wasn't young. I wasn't naive. It wasn't like I made a very deliberate decision. It didn't happen to me. You know what I mean? And I think it could have if I were younger. Like if that had happened in my mid-20s, I think I'd be telling you something completely different. Yeah. But I made a very active decision to become basically a fractional executive for hire. So, a part-time chief marketing officer or a part-time CEO. Smaller companies that didn't need full-time executives, couldn't afford full-time executives. I started doing a lot of those gigs, which were perfect because it allowed me to go read at my son's 4th grade classroom. Yeah. It allowed me to stand on the corner and hide behind the building so that he couldn't see that I was watching him walk home once he had decided he was old enough to walk home by himself, and I had made that same decision. It allowed me to do all of those things that I would not have been able to do.
One of the themes I'm hearing from you in our conversation is that you are very good at making deliberate decisions. How would you advise other people who maybe aren't so good at doing that if they wanted to be better at it?
Oh, it's so easy. Just remember, you can make a different decision just as deliberately 30 seconds later. So you can make a decision and then decide to undecide.
Yeah, to make a different one.
It's perspective.
Yeah, nothing is permanent.
No, right? I make decisions all the time. I'm a really great decision maker. But you come back 5 minutes from now and that decision I made 5 minutes ago, I might be telling you something completely different. And you're going to look at me like, but Jack, you just said blah, blah, blah. And I said, yes, I did. And I 100% believed that 5 minutes ago. But now I have this information that I did not have 5 minutes ago. And I'm telling you, this is the new decision. And I will be just as adamant about it because you can just always redecide. To me, making the decision is important because it puts an anchor in place for me. It puts like a starting point.
That's
And
such a
then,
good way of putting an anchor.
yeah, it just gives me a starting point. So then once I've decided something, I start pursuing it. If it's not what I thought it was, or isn't working out the way I want it to work out, or all of a sudden I have a piece of information, like back what I was saying a little bit earlier about how this person brought this piece of information about where I should be taking my business. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have it, but your perspective is so right, but she had it and she gave it to
Mm-hmm.
me. So I made a different decision. And do you see what I'm saying? So
Yes, completely.
make
That
the
it's
decision.
right. Make the decision. And when things change, which they always will, you can make a different decision, but you have to make a decision in order to move forward. Otherwise, you're just kind of, like you said, using that anchor. So if you're not making a decision and putting an anchor down, then you're just kind of floating around. If we're going to go with the boat analogy, you're just kind of floating in the water,
Well,
unmoored.
and if you're not willing to make decisions for yourself, circumstances will make them for you. Decisions will be
Yes,
made.
correct. Yeah, you know what it reminds me of? As we were speaking of music, I always go back to song analogies. Is Rush has that song? If you choose, what is it? If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice.
Yeah. Choosing not to choose is a choice. You chose
Yeah,
it.
right.
It
And so
always makes
you
me
might as well make
crazy.
a choice that
Right.
serves you as opposed to having it imposed upon you.
It always frustrates me when people say, well, I didn't have a choice. And I'm like, no, man, that's just not true.
Yeah.
That's
Mm-hmm.
that's just not factually correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I have enjoyed our time together. And before we go, I need to ask you, what is your hype song, the song that you go to charge you up, fuel you when you need an extra boost of energy? What's the song you listen to?
Okay, this is embarrassing, but I don't care. It is Don't Rain on My Parade by Barbara Streisand, originally from the movie Funny Girl.
Yes.
Yes, so it's Don't
Yeah.
Rain on My Parade. You know, don't tell me not to fly. I simply got to. It's basically about I'm going to do it. I'm going to live my life. And if I fail, if I am not the shiny apple of its eye, that is my problem, not anybody else's. But don't rain on my parade because I'm going after it. And I love that song. I use it to run with, to jump rope with, to sing in the kitchen in the mornings, I just use that song all the time.
And she's such a great role model for a strong woman.
Yeah, I love her.
Yeah.
I love her.
Fantastic.
She's pretty much lived life by her own standards, whatever that is. A lot of
Yes.
people don't like her because she isn't
Because of that.
nice or right. But if she
Yeah.
were a man, nobody would have ever said boo about her
Right.
living by her own rules and her own. Yeah, she just makes her own rules, and
And
you
is
can do it
unapologetic for them.
and is
Yeah.
unapologetic.
Yeah. I love it. Before we go, I just said that before, didn't I? Well, we'll edit that part
Before we go
out.
again,
Before we go again, how can people reach you and learn more about what you're doing now?
well, I do have a digital platform that is dedicated to women in midlife and beyond. So 45 plus. It's called Kuel Life. And I spell cool all crazy, as you know, since you're one of my Kuel Life experts. It's spelled
Yes.
Kuel life.com. If you are a woman who's 45 plus, just hop on out there. There are so many articles all relevant to women at this time about emptiness, about gray divorce, money. Women have a lot of issues with money. I have 3 money experts. So there's a lot of amazing content that is curated specifically for this time of life and for women. You can reach me through Instagram, through Facebook, through the site. You can just send me an email. I'm always looking for women to collaborate with. The other thing, Lori, is that I do have that curated shopping experience on the site. So if any of your listeners are women who own a brand, like they have a jewelry brand, or they're artists, or they make clothing, please reach out to me. Let's see if you belong in that shop, because that whole shopping experience is specifically designed to enable and empower women-owned products. And I did that with intention because I want to be able to empower and support other women entrepreneurs.
Right. And it is such a fantastic collection of goods in there. So,
Yeah, and what's
all right.
cool about it is that, I mean, you're not going to get it in an Amazon truck 4 hours from now, because a lot
Right.
of those items are handmade or made to order. They're not mass manufactured in China. So, but you get to purchase with a purpose. Seriously, like if you buy something from one of these women, you are directly impacting their financial well-being, which makes me feel good when I buy something. So.
Yeah, and you get something that is not what everybody else has.
Correct.
So I always love doing that.
It's great for intentional gift giving, either to yourself or somebody else, But
yeah. And we'll put links in the show notes to the website and to all your social media platforms. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Do you want to mention the gift or no?
Yes, yes, because Jack has a special gift for my listeners. Tell us what it is.
I am willing and I want to give away a year membership to the Kuel Life platform. There are plenty of perks, which I don't need to go into all the details. Maybe we can put the details in the show notes.
Sure.
But if you click on the link in the show notes and give me your name and your email, I'll put you in a drawing that I will draw a woman after this show airs. Lori will get back to everybody through Instagram or social media, and we'll announce a winner and give a year subscription away to Kuel Life. I would love to.
Fantastic. Yeah. Oh, what a wonderful gift. Thank you so much for sharing that.
My pleasure.
And thank you for being here with me on Fine is a 4-letter word.
Thank you, Lori. I had such a good time.